Hello, it's Thursday, October 22, and today we're looking at Acts chapter 9 together. Now, as always, I've provided a link to Acts 9 in the description of this video, and I think it'd be really good if you take some time to read the chapter on your own. One of the stories we get in Acts 9, probably the most famous story in Acts 9, is the conversion of a man named Saul. Now, Saul was a devout Jew. He was strongly devoted to keeping God's laws and trying to be pure and following God. And Saul thought that it was his mission, his responsibility as a devout Jew and a Jewish leader to persecute Christians because he thought they had strayed from the faith, strayed from what God's people were supposed to believe. And so in this story, Saul is going to a different town with letters from the chief priests so that he can go and persecute more Christians. And then, in this amazing turn of events, Jesus appears to him. And Jesus says, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." And we get this wonderful realization that Jesus identifies himself so closely with his people that when his followers are being persecuted, Jesus says he himself is being persecuted. That's how much he loves us. That's how closely he identifies himself with us. But then we see that Jesus is able to reach out and touch Saul's heart and transform him. And Saul, who had been this enormous opponent of Christianity, becomes this incredible Christian preacher. Jesus transforms Saul entirely, leads him to faith, and Saul begins to realize that Jesus is the Messiah, the Christ, the one that he and all of God's people have been looking for. And so Saul goes and he starts preaching, and more people start believing. And God works through men like Ananias and Barnabas to make sure that Saul is accepted by the church, that they realize that this is God's Spirit at work, and this is not some kind of trick on Saul's part. In the story of Saul, we see the grace and power of Jesus. We see his grace in that he takes Saul, who has been destroying Jesus' followers, and he leads him to salvation. Rather than destroying Saul, rather than striking him down, Jesus shows him the truth and leads him to faith. And we also see this power that Saul, who had been dead set against Christianity, his heart is changed by an encounter with Jesus. And he is saved, and he becomes one of the greatest supporters and preachers in Jesus' name. The story of Saul shows us that there's no one who is beyond the reach of Jesus' grace, that Jesus can reach out and bring anybody to salvation, that he can lead us to change our lives, to turn away from our sin, to turn to him. So that's my thought with today's reading. If you've got thoughts, comments, or questions that you'd like to share, please go ahead and do that. Thanks again for watching.